Once upon a time, Devarshi Charananushayana. He remembered that all along I am Devarshi Charananushayana. Shayana means to sleep, but here it means to lie down or offer. Anushayana. Devarshi Charana Anushayana. He had taken shelter of the lotus feet of Devarshi Narada, surrendered to the spiritual master. Devarshi Charana Anushayana. Anupatitha, Anu, thereafter, Patita Guna Visarga Samsargena. He started reflecting that I am actually caught up in all these material activities. Guna Visarga Samsargena. Guna Visarga, the material modes, and the material modes creates varieties of activities. Some activities are considered glorious activities. Some activities are considered very inglorious activities, according to the different modes that are influencing. So, Guna Visarga Samsargena, by being in contact with the Guna Visarga. Anirvrutham. Anirvrutham, he became dissatisfied. Anirvrutham iva, as if dissatisfied. Anirvrutham iva. Atmanam manyamana. He started thinking. Manyamana, he started thinking. Atma nirveda, and his heart became filled with renunciation. Nirveda, renunciation. Indifference. Nirveda, Atma nirveda, idam aha. And he spoke like this. While enjoying his material opulences with full strength and influence. Sayevam aparimita bala parakrama. Maharaj Priyavrata once, ekada, began to consider Manyamana, that although he had fully surrendered to the great saint Narada, Devarshi Charananushayana, and was actually on the path of Krishna consciousness, he had somehow become again entangled in material activity. Guna Visarga Samsargena Patitha. He had become again entangled in material activities. Thus his mind, Atmanam Manyamanaha, now became restless. Atma nirveda. And he began to speak idam aha in a spirit of renunciation. Atma nirveda. So, this is the result of taking shelter of a pure devotee, spiritual master, very sincerely. Becomes disinterested in material activities, and heart becomes filled with renunciation and becomes dissatisfied with material things, as it happened to Maharaj Priyavrata. Devarshi Charananushayana Patita Guna Visarga Samsargena Anirvrutham. Anirvrutham means not satisfied, discontented, ill at ease, not very comfortable. So, Prabhupada said, when we practice Krishna consciousness, we will ourselves begin to experience the changes in our heart and we will know when we are advancing in Krishna consciousness. And the most important symptom is detachment from material world. If we are practicing Krishna consciousness, and if we are still excited about material things, and those material things are still attracting us, that means anirvritam has not happened. Atma nirveda, the spirit of renunciation, has not come about. So, here Priyavrata, although he was doing all of these things, aparimita bala parakrama, he was in the palace, he had so many sons, he had daughter, he had queen, and he was doing wonderful things, ruling the world, ruling the worlds. But all along he was Devarshi Charananushayana. He never gave up his devotional principles that he had learned from his spiritual master. So our life may take us through many, many phases, but always we should remain Guna Devarshi Charananu Shayana Anushayana. We should always be at the lotus feet, meaning our lives should be directed by the instructions of the spiritual master and always surrender to those instructions. That is known as Charananushayana. And material world is like that. Guna Visarga. There will be certain things which will bring big result, success. Some things will bring failure. This is Guna Visarga. Ups and downs will be there in a material world. So, one should not become very excited and elated when there is success. One should not become depressed and when there is failure. We should know that this is Guna Visarga. This comes and goes in this material world. And Anirvritam. This is an important qualification for advancing in Krishna consciousness. A devotee must not have hope for happiness in this material world. If he has hope, no, today I am not in the best of material situation. I will work hard and improve my material situation. Then I'll become happy. So a devotee knows in this material world, in any situation, I will not be happy. I will only be happy at the lotus feet of Krishna. So this is known as Anirvritam. And Maharaj Priyavrata began to experience that. Once Srila Prabhupada explained that bhajana kriya means one becomes anxious. Bhajana kriya means devotional activities. The result of doing devotional activities means one should become anxious. So it looks like some type of a contradiction. People say you do spiritual activities, you will become free from anxiety. But Prabhupada is saying, no, when you do bhajana kriya, you will become full of anxiety. Anxiety for what? Bhajana kriya means one becomes anxious. The effect of sadhu sangha is become anxious how to execute this devotional service properly. Because in that Rupa Goswami's different steps of development of Krishna consciousness, he says, Adav Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha Ata Bhajana Kriya. So Prabhupada is describing this. It begins with initial Shraddha, preliminary interest or understanding or faith or appreciation, And then sadhu sangha happens, and then sadhu sangha leads to bhajana kriya. So sadhu sangha, the effect of sadhu sangha is one becomes anxious how to execute devotional service properly. Because devotional service has to be practiced properly so that gradually we become pakwa bhajana. Here Narada Muni's, this verse is quoted by Srila Prabhupada. Tyaktva swadharmam charanambhujam harer bhajan apakvotha. So bhajana, our devotional service, can be apakwa, immature, or pakwa. So devotional service has to mature. Our understanding, our practice, our attachment, our following of the principles should become more mature. So the effect of sadhu sangha is becoming anxious. So this anxiety is not the same as material anxiety. Oh, I have invested in this business. What will happen to my business? I have done this one. How much I will enjoy? This is spiritual. Prabhupada uses another word, Krishna anxiety. Yashoda Mai's example Prabhupada gives. Yashoda was full of anxiety in her life. So we may wonder, what is this? Krishna's mother, she herself is full of anxiety. I thought I'll have peace. That's why I came to spiritual life. No. This anxiety is not only peace, it is ecstasy. It is the highest bliss. Mother Yashoda was in the highest bliss. Her heart was full of Krishna anxiety. Whether Krishna is safe, whether Krishna had his food, whether Krishna slept well, whether Krishna has taken his bath, whether Krishna is all right or any demon is disturbing him. She is full of anxiety because that is Vatsalya Rasa. Vatsalya Rasa is that mother caring for the child. That's a flavor of bhakti. These are the different flavors of bhakti that Bhagavatam teaches. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches that these are the flavors. There are different flavors of bhakti. And Krishna, being the supreme enjoyer, he enjoys all these different flavors of bhakti. Just like when you have a feast, in your feast there will be so many items. There is something little bitter, something sour, something spicy, something sweet. Varieties. That's what makes a sweet, isn't it? That variety is the spice of enjoyment, it is said. So it's that variegatedness. So Krishna enjoys all of these different flavors of bhakti rasas with his devotees. That is what enjoyment is. Krishna is unlimited in everything. In his enjoyment also he is unlimited. So that is our understanding of Krishna. And hence, this becoming anxious that I must do devotional service properly. That's what Prabhupada is saying. The effect of sadhu sangha is become anxious how to execute this devotional service properly. We understand that this devotional service is so important, so we want to execute it properly. I was talking to one devotee. Somebody had insulted him, and he was very unhappy about that. And then, they have insulted me. So I was telling him, don't become worried about this insult, honor, dishonor. Actually, Prabhupada's definition of Krishna explains in the 13th chapter that we are chanting every day in the morning. what are the symptoms of knowledge, enlightenment? And the first symptom is amanitvam. Amanitvam means humility. Humility means, very nicely Prabhupada explains, not to be anxious of being honored by others. Mana means to be honored by others. Amanitvam, that state of consciousness of amanitvam. And Prabhupada explains, honor and dishonor are material deceptions. It is cheating. Deception means cheating. Somebody is elevated very high and he is thinking, so I am so fortunate, I am so lucky. No. Guna visargaha, it will pull you down. After your guna, karma, everything is over, you will come down. Or somebody is feeling insulted, down there. And then again feeling very depressed, unhappy. And then this devotee was having this kind of a hurt and insulted. On and on and on. Again and again he was telling me this one. Even after a month, 1.5 months. Then I told him, you are turning around in your mind this insult, how this happened, that happened, this one, that one. You should be thinking of Dhyeya Narayana Sadha. That is Krishna consciousness. We should be always remembering Krishna, but you are only remembering your insult so much. So some people, we are thinking and discussing in our heart, in our mind. The mind is churning again and again. That happened, this happened. Or somebody could be honored. I remember when I was a schoolboy, high school boy, I got one award, some prize, something, in the school you get. I remember when my name was announced and I got up and everybody was clapping. All parents were there, our students were there. So I walked up and then received the prize and everybody was clapping. And I came back and sat, and that night I could not sleep. So much again my mind was turning over. Oh, so nice. Everybody was clapping. This is deception. We get carried away by honor. We can get carried away by dishonor. These are all just simply facets of the material world. Both have no substance. Because this is just a play of Kala. According to karma and Kala, some honor will come, some dishonor will come, it will be gone. We are spirit soul. What is the value of all these things? Why should I be running? That's why it is called deception. We run after that. Oh, honor. I must avoid dishonor. I run away from dishonor. And we waste our time. Instead of our becoming absorbed in Hari Bhajana, we become absorbed in all these things, pursuit of honor and dishonor, and we waste our time. That is why a man who is enlightened, he will manifest on humility. He is not after hankering for the satisfaction of being honored by others. That's called humility. Honor and dishonor are facets of the material world, and it is a material deception. So we should not be wasting our time with these things. So here we see how Maharaj Priyavrata, although he was up in that kind of elevated situation materially, he was anirvritaha. There was a constant dissatisfaction. Whatever it is, this material world. So even in Krishna consciousness, because we are engaged in the service of the Guru's mission, we are handling so many things in this material world, because we are interested in preaching. This is a very strong direction from our Guru and from our Acharyas. I was talking to one intelligent man. Very nicely he was saying something. He was appreciating because he had gone to ISKCON temples around the world and all of that. And he was saying, I have seen one thing in your Swami Prabhupada. He had that expansionist drive. I don't see there are so many sadhus having in our country that expansionist drive. Of course, maybe it is there or maybe it is not there. But actually there is a reason why that expansionist drive took full blossoming shape during Srila Prabhupada's time. Because if you see what happened, Krishna told all these things in the Bhagavad Gita. The principles of bhakti, how important Sharanagati is, and from Sharanagati development to prema, and that is the position of the living entity. All of this was discussed in the Gita and in the Srimad Bhagavatam at the beginning of Kali Yuga. But the nature of Kali Yuga, the influence of Kali Yuga is that people misunderstand. It's not easy to understand the principles of dharma properly. It was misunderstood. It was so misunderstood that in the name of Vedic literatures they were slaughtering animals in the temples, and Vishnu again had to come as Buddha. And he told them to reject the Vedas. So imagine human society, Gita, the Bhagavata, the Vedic principles, Vedanta Sutra, all of this very clearly, this is the most important thing. And Vishnu himself came and said, reject the Vedas. Sadaya Hridaya Pashughatam. Because there was so much Pashughata happening, he felt compassion for the animals. Sadaya Hridaya. He felt so much how people are killing animals and how much they are harming themselves. So Lord Vishnu himself came, and Buddhism came, and all the idea of Vedic thought, Vedic principles were out. And then to bring it back over centuries, the Lord was planning. Shankaracharya came and he brought back the importance of Vedic principles. Then Ramanujacharya came. Then Madhvacharya came. All of this was going. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. And then when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, he further clearly elucidated. And now this knowledge has to be spread everywhere. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Yare dekho tare koho, Krishna Upadesh, Amaragna Taradesh. This is my order to you. Become Guru and spread this knowledge. Even after that, they are misunderstood. 2 generations after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, again there was confusion and misunderstanding. Even in the parampara, there was apasampradaya happened. This yoga nashta happens in this material world. The connection with the pure teachings, the standard understanding gets lost. That's called yoga nashta. Krishna also talks about sayevam parampara praptam. Idam rajarshayo viduhu sakala neha mahato yogo nashta parantapa. That connection gets lost, yoga nashta happens. Sayevam maya tedya yoga prokta puratana. And again it has to be revived. And so there were a few acharyas very carefully, strictly following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's principles. And then it was Bhakti Vinod Thakur, once again re-established. He again wrote many, many books describing that what is the correct conclusion. And then there was his very important disciple, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, was fully understood these things in his heart, practicing real renunciation. And then Bhakti Vinod Thakur's son, as Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he came and further stabilized it and expanded it. One of the things that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur pointed out was he clearly delineated how the parampara is coming down. That was one of his important contributions to enlist the 32 names that was there in the parampara. very clearly identifying that. And then Srila Prabhupada came. Now all of these acharyas, what they had written, what they had taught, he presented it in an English language, in a simple language, in a way that the whole world can understand. So all of this was work in preparation. And now Srila Prabhupada took it around the world. So that is how these things have unfolded mystically according to the plan of the Lord. And so these have been happening, and Srila Prabhupada, the way very, very clearly he's described these things. Prabhupada says, two things every devotee should do. We should ourselves realize Krishna, and number two, we should convince others about Krishna. So in order to realize Krishna, we have to do our devotional service very nicely. Devotional principles, devotional practices. We have to realize, not that we have to just remain some theoretically describe so many things, but not able to practice ourselves. No, that is not pleasing to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada wants us to realize Krishna and convince others. So, bhajana kriya means one becomes anxious. The effect of sadhu sangha is become anxious how to execute his devotional service properly. So, we are all supposed to be sadhus, and we are supposed to give sadhu sangha. The effect and the impact that we create in people whom we come in touch with should be, they should become anxious to take up devotional service. See the effect Narada Muni had created. So many years had passed, but the impact Narada Muni had created in the heart of Priyavrata, that was constantly burning. Isn't it? We see the same effect in Srila Prabhupada. 1922 he met his guru Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he told him the importance of Krishna consciousness, how it has to be spread. And then soon after 1922, that meeting with Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's the work he was doing and the place where he was working, they shifted him from Calcutta to Allahabad. So he moved out of Calcutta for 10 years, 11 years, 1922 to 1933. Again he comes in touch with Gaudiya Math in 1928. So for at least 6 years, and then he gets initiated in 33. So for those 6 years, but Prabhupada says, he had created an impression in me that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy is in the hands of a very able Acharya. This is a very important thing. See that anxiety, that determination. And then Prabhupada says, the effect of sadhu sangha is becoming anxious how to execute this devotional service properly. This is called initiation. That becoming anxious, that yes, I must do devotional service properly. I must realize Krishna properly. And I must convince others. Because that's also mission of Srila Prabhupada. I must convince others, make somebody else convinced, yes, Krishna is the supreme and Krishna consciousness is the highest engagement. That convincing another person, that's also our duty. So we see the dynamics that were working millions of years ago in the hearts of great devotees like Narada Muni and Priyavrata, again reenacted in the lives of Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada, through his books, through his instructions, through his institution, is again creating a similar effect in all our hearts, isn't it? Sometime we felt that, what is this going on? Forget it. Atmanirvedaha. To whatever little extent. We felt dissatisfied. We were uncomfortable being with the karmis, following the material goals and the aspirations that our parents were having and the ambitions that they were inducing us to pursue. We became uncomfortable with that. And we should remain uncomfortable and become increasingly uncomfortable about guna visarga samsargena anirvutaha. Not to find joy in material engagement, but to become dissatisfied by material engagement. These are symptoms of advancement. And we see that happening in Maharaj Priyavrata. So, living in a community of Krishna conscious devotees helps us to learn all these things. Sometimes we will be honored, sometimes we will be dishonored, sometimes we will be insulted. All these kind of things will happen. But we should remember that what is my goal in life? So, it's a wonderful platform, wonderful institution, wonderful situation Srila Prabhupada has given us. We can keep increasingly improving our realization of Krishna, and as an institution keep convincing others about Krishna. Such a wonderful engagement Prabhupada has given us. Continuously improve our realization of Krishna and continuously convince others about Krishna so that they can also fulfill the mission of their life. We have been seeing that how Maharaj Priyavrata was a materially very, very successful person, performed wonderful activities, extraordinary activities, had a beautiful wife, had many beautiful, wonderful, very capable children, had palace, had all the opulence of a successful man. Such a king as Priyavrata, a very successful man, how he is reflecting about his own activities. This self-reflection and this self-examination is what is being described in this verse. He begins by saying, Aho asadhu. So, these are all expressions, Aho asadhu, alam, alam, dhik, dhik, to show his strong feelings about his own accomplishments in life. Aho asadhu. When you say in learned circles, sadhu, sadhu, that means well spoken, good, well done. And so he is saying, Aho asadhu, I have not done well. Not good. Anushthitham yad abhiniveshitaha. I have executed. Abhiniveshitaha. I have been absorbed. In what? Aham indriyaihi avidyarachita vishama vishayandakupe abhiniveshitaha. I have been absorbed. In what? In sense gratification, indriyaihi. And in what circumstances? Avidyarachita. Avidya, ignorance, lack of enlightenment, lack of knowledge. And this avidya rachita, this ignorance can create grand things in this world. And I also did such grand things in this world. Avidya rachita. Vishama. Ultimately, it causes distress to the living entity. It doesn't solve the real problems of life. Vishama. Avidya rachita. Vishama. Vishaya. Indriya Vishaya. Vishaya. Indriyaihi Vishaya. Sense gratification, objects of senses, sense gratification. Andakupe. Kupa is a well. But here, many times in the Bhagavatam, this is described as a Andakupa. Andakupa means a dark well. It also means a covered well. It also means a deep well, because it's deep and so it's dark. So Andakupe abhiniveshitaha. I've been absorbed. Tad alam. Enough. If these insignificant things I've been dealing with. Enough. Alam. Insignificant, of no importance. Amushya vanitaya vinoda mrugam. I've been doing all these things. How? On whose inspiration? My beautiful, wonderful wife, Vanitaya. And inspired by her. We just read in a few verses before. She was so wonderful, inspiring. That's why they say behind every successful man, there is a wonderful wife. Yes. He had a wonderful wife. She was very inspiring. And now he is realizing, Vanitaya Vinoda Mrugam. What did I do? I became a dancing monkey. Vinoda, it gives joy. Mruga and monkey. Sometimes we have in our country a man having a monkey and he'll be doing different things. And then he'll collect, and then we'll all be looking at that. So I have become like a Vinoda, Vanitaya Vinoda Mrugam. And Mam, take. You saw how very powerful words, very strong words, indicating his feelings. Condemned. Vanitaya, Mam, take, iti garhayam. Garhayam. Criticism, chakara, he did. He criticized himself. So this self-examination, self-reflection is a very special quality of a human being. Animals cannot do self-examination. Animals cannot do self-reflection. Have you ever seen a dog or a cat or a tiger or a bird reflecting, oh, yesterday I did that, day before yesterday I did that, last 1 year I have been doing this, am I doing rightly? They cannot do such reflection, self-reflection. This is one of the distinguishing features of a human being. A human being can reflect. He can self-examine himself. But if such capacity for self-examination, self-reflection, critical thinking, critical self-examination, if these things are not guided, because he has the capacity for self-examination. He has the capacity for reflection. But if that capacity, that aptitude, Prabhupada uses the word, human beings have the aptitude for self-examination. If that aptitude for self-examination is not properly guided with knowledge, with transcendental knowledge, what he will do? Avidya rachita. He will create wonderful things in this material world. So, The king thus began criticizing himself. Garhayam chakara. Alas, how condemned I have become. Alas, aho, asadhu. How condemned I have become. Asadhu, how condemned I have become because of my sense gratification. Indriyehi abhiniveshitaha. I have now fallen into material enjoyment. Indriyehi vishaya abhiniveshitaha. Or anushtitam. I have become engaged in sense gratification. I have now fallen into material enjoyment, which is exactly like a covered well. Andakupam. I have had enough. Alam, alam. I am not going to enjoy anymore. Just see how I have become like a dancing monkey. Vinodamrugam, in the hands of my wife. Vanitaya Vinodamrugam. Because of this, I am condemned. Dik, dik, mam, dik, dik. Garhayam chakara. In this way, he condemned himself. So, Srila Prabhupada has written very nicely in the purport that compared to what Priyavrata has done, what modern civilization has done, is not all that great. Priyavrata could create the sun, an alternate sun, to shine in the night. He could create oceans. Relatively speaking, even modern civilization has not done things of that scale. Maybe they have built big bridges, big skyscrapers, big cities, big gardens, and all of that, those kind of things. And human beings have become very proud about that. See how well we have done. So, compared to what Priyavrata has done, this is not all that. So, when we think about the example of Maharaj Priyavrata, we can just consider how degraded is the modern civilization of materialistic advancement. Modern so-called scientists and other materials are very satisfied because they can construct great bridges, roads, and machines. Why do we say that this is not great? You know, see in Western countries, big buildings, big roads, big bridges. Even we are also doing those things in our country now. And why do we say it is not all that? Prabhupada points out. We can conclude how condemned we are because they can construct great bridges, roads and machines, but such activities are nothing comparable to those of Maharaj Priyavrata. If Maharaj Priyavrata could condemn himself in spite of his wonderful activities, how condemned we are in our modern so-called advancement of material civilization. We can conclude that such advancement has nothing to do with the problems of the living entity entangled within this material world. Because all those grand activities become feeble to address the real problems of the living entities, which is Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. Finally, when we are dying, if a man is dying, old age, disease, and all that, and he's in a hospital with all the different equipment around him, and there's a nice glass window overlooking, and he's on a skyscraper hospital, And he looks out of the window. There's big bridge there. All that, but he is dying. Big bridge and all the skyscraper. Finally he is suffering. The body is going through all kinds of pains. And he is remembering all his friends and relatives and family. No one is around him. That is Vishama. That is the distress of the living entity. That's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur composed a very beautiful song. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was highly educated. His family, his time at that time, and his situation was that he was very educated. And he was very studious, worked very hard, studying books. And Britishers had introduced English education. And because of English education, you could read books from all over the country, all over the world. And he was into all of that. And so he writes, Jada Vidya Jata Mayar Vaibhava. This Vidya, Jada Vidya, this education about the material world, knowledge about the material world, Jada Vidya Jata Mayar Vaibhava. It can create grandiose manifestations. But this is all a grandiose manifestation of the illusory energy of the Lord. So in Western countries, and now even we are doing that in our countries, we have nice cities, trying to get nice cities, not yet there. Our cities are still very dirty, but maybe sometime we will get there. Nice clean cities, nice gardens, green grass. Seeing all that, this is Maya or Vaibhava. But we don't understand that way. We think this is all wonderful. Jada Vidya Jata Mayar Vaibhava Tomar Bhajana Bhadha. But this Mayar Vaibhava that we may create, it is Tomar Bhajana Bhadha. It becomes an impediment for serving Krishna, for remembering Krishna, for chanting Krishna's holy names and doing devotional service. Because we become attracted to Maya Vaibhava. Vaibhava means grandiose manifestation. We get captured by that. Jada Vidya Jata Maya Vaibhava Tomar Bhajana Bhadha. And so, how does this all come about? How does this become an impediment? Moha Janamiya, because it creates moha, it creates an illusion. That's why when you see those things, big buildings, big nice bridges, roads, cars, machines, gardens, green grass, seeing all that, Moha Janamiya, it thinks, oh, such a nice place. And we forget, Anitya Samsare, Moha Janamiya. This samsara refers to material existence. It is anitya. These beautiful gardens and buildings and bridges, it won't be with you forever. Moha Janamiya, Anitya Samsare. And to maintain all these things, it's not easy. To maintain big building, parks, gardens, bridges, and good family, and go with them and enjoy, spend money, all these things. You have to work very hard. Jeeva ke karaye gadha. Gadha means a donkey, an ass. In order to enjoy Mayar Vaibhava, you need money. And to get money, you have to work very hard like a donkey. And so, the eternal living entity is turned into a donkey for temporary pleasure. See how the working of Maya is so nicely captured by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Same spirit here, same message here. Avidya rachita vishaya vishama vishayandha kupe. Avidya rachita vishama. So with this knowledge of the material world and systematically thinking, because a systematic thinking ability exists in a human being. That systematic thinking has to be guided. If it is not guided, we will be misled. We will get into material, creating Maya Vaibhava, and forget that it is anitya samsara. It's a temporary existence. Just like we take a journey in a train. It may be 8 hours train, 12 hours train, maybe 24 hours train. And you have, say for instance, you are having some money in your pocket, all your savings. Now, you don't think how I'll use this money to beautify this compartment. Now let me spend 1 lakh rupees, beautify this. This color is not good, this is not good, that is, we don't do that. Because 8 hours, 10 hours, I'll abandon this and go away. But we don't realize that about the material world. Our hard work, our energy, our intelligence, everything, we want to make this one a very beautiful world so that I can live. We forget that it is anitya samsare. So that's the nature of this material existence, grand material creations of this world, and it is very feeble in solving the real problems of the living entity. It does not have the potency. The grand bridge and the grand houses and the grand buildings and the grand parks we develop does not have the ability to address the real problems that I'll be having. Old age, disease, family problems, all these things it cannot solve. It's too feeble. It is powerless. So this is the avidya rachita, and it leads to vishama, distress for the living entity. And so this self-examination, self-critical thinking, these are all human abilities, but should be guided with standard knowledge. Nowadays there are a lot of people in our country, they are feeling Bharat, our country. There is so much. So I come across a lot of people like that when we get to talk to them. And then when I see they're talking, when they're very spirited, very nice people. They really feel for our country. But the real wealth of our country, the real knowledge, real understanding, they have missed out. And they have become little old, they're in their 40s, sometimes 50s. And it's little difficult to give them the proper understanding. Because proper understanding you can get from parampara. One of the characteristics that Prabhupada describes, standard knowledge of God, standard understanding of God, of the material world, of the material situation. What is a standard understanding? Just like in science, there is a standard understanding. What is water made of? Very clear. Standard understanding. It's made of hydrogen and oxygen in these proportions. Because that's a standard understanding. Just like there is a standard understanding about water, and a teacher is supposed to, a science teacher is supposed to teach standard knowledge. Suppose I'm a science teacher and I go to a high school and tell, my dear students, your textbook is wrong. I have figured out water is actually made of hydrogen and nitrogen. Please write down. If I do that, and when the school inspector comes, inspects the teacher what he has taught, I'll be fired, because I didn't teach standard knowledge. Just like there is a standard understanding about God, about water, about the material world, about all these things, there is a standard knowledge and understanding about God, about the absolute truth. What is the absolute truth? And Bhagavad Gita teaches, Bhagavatam teaches, our acharyas teach, and that absolute truth is a person, Krishna. Once when Prabhupada was in Kumbh Mela, few high court judges of Allahabad, because the Kumbh Mela was happening in Prayag, Allahabad, they came and met, and they had read some of Prabhupada's books, and they praised Prabhupada, saying that, Swamiji, you are the only one who is saying that absolute truth is a person. Nobody is saying that. Because that is Krishna's Bhagavad Gita. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Buddha, these are all related words. Buddhi, Buddha, Buddha. Buddha means an enlightened person. So Krishna is saying Buddha bhava samanvitaha, one who is enlightened. Enlightened what? Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattha sarvam pravartate. Everything is coming from me. I am the source of everything. Everything is an emanation from me. That ultimate source, ultimate cause, the search of that is Vedanta knowledge. And that Vedanta knowledge, searching for that ultimate cause, ultimate source, ends in understanding Krishna, because he is the source of everything. Krishna is standing there in front of Arjuna and he is saying, I am the source. Reading Bhagavad Gita, people misunderstand and think that there is one energy which is the source of everything. Just see how misreading happens. So, standard knowledge we can get from the parampara. And what is that correct parampara? That was one of the important contributions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He wrote down, this is parampara, and I am coming in this parampara. This is how all the other acharyas have come. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came like this, Krishna came, Brahma came, now this is Vyasa came, this is the parampara. Because he delineated that parampara, it became a big controversy during his time. Many controversies Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur encountered in his life. He courted with many controversies of his time. One of them is this. And he wrote down the parampara, he wrote a Sanskrit composition of that one, and he made a Bengali song around that one, so that it is very firmly established. This is the way the knowledge is coming. Correct knowledge. Standard correct understanding of the Vedic literature is coming in this way. Evam parampara prapta. That's why our acharyas take these words of Krishna as very parampara praptam. You have to receive the knowledge in the parampara. It is received. It's not created. It's not fabricated. It is received. So that is the way this knowledge has to be received. Because you see, in the 13th chapter which we are reading, so nice. Arjuna asks questions. Gnanam, Gneyam, I want to know what is knowledge and what is to be known. And Krishna says, yes, I'll tell you what is to be known. Knowing which Amrutam Ashnute. Knowing this, there is knowledge and there is an object of knowledge to be known by the knowledge, by the process of knowledge. And then Krishna says, this knowledge, this object of knowledge, sukshmatvat tad avigneyam, that object of knowledge is unknowable. Look at this, it looks like a contradiction. Now I will tell you what is the object of knowledge, what is to be known. But that to be known is unknowable. You cannot know that. I'll teach you what is to be known. But that is unknowable. What does that mean? Gneyam avigneyaha. It is to be known. It is the object of knowledge, but it is avigneyaha. It cannot be known. It cannot be known by our own effort. It can be known when it descends. And when it descends, it can be known provided we have cultured our consciousness rightly. Just like a farmer, he has to till the ground and make it ready and see that the soil is fertile. And then he has made arrangements for watering and all that. And then seed has to come. And then you will have the plant. If you receive the seed on the rock, it will not grow. If you till the ground and make it fertile and don't get the seed, nothing will come. Both are essential. This knowledge is received in the parampara, and for us to properly comprehend it and appreciate it and realize it, we have to culture our consciousness with sadhana, with regulative principles, controlling the senses, controlling the mind. If these things are not there, even if you have received the wonderful bija, but our heart is rock, all solid, it will fall there. A seed can sit on a rock for 1 million years, nothing will happen. See, that is why regulative principles, these are essential to maintain the right consciousness so that the knowledge that Srila Prabhupada is giving is fructified. We realize that knowledge. So, and then he's saying, Andakupe. And Prabhupada explains this Andakupa, householder life. Prahlad Maharaj uses the same expression. Tat sadhu manye asuravarya dehinam sada samudvigna dhyam asatgrahat hitvatmapatam gruhamandakupam vanam gato yad harimashrayeta. Please take shelter of Hari. Harim ashrayeta. He was telling his father. Asadu manye, tat sadhu manye. Here he is saying aho asadu. Prahlad is using the word tat sadhu manye. Because his father asked him, what is the good thing you have learnt, my dear son, from the teachers in the school? And so he was thinking that he is going to tell him avidya, rachita, vishama, all those grand things we have to create in the material world like my father has created. But the son said, tat sadhu manye asuravarya dehinam sada samudvigna dhyam asatgrihat. This dehinam asatgrihat, the living entity who has accepted this body, asatgrihat has become engaged in the material world. So his consciousness dhyam will be sada samudvigna dhyam, will always be filled with anxiety. So Prahlad Maharaj's recommendation was also hitvatmapatam gruhamandakupam. Atmapatam means that place which will kill self-realization. That situation which can kill self-realization is called Atmapatam. So householder life is considered to be a Atmapatam. Gruham Andakupam. It's like a dark well. Why is it a dark well? Srila Prabhupada analyzes why it's a dark well in different places and gives at least 4 reasons. 1. Dark well, covered well. In this translation, Prabhupada has translated Andakupa as a covered well. So, you are walking and it is nice, green is there. You are thinking, so wonderful, I can walk over that. And you walk, it was actually a thin layer of grass. Underneath that was a deep well and you fell into it. So that's one of the things happens. We see in the material, look, oh, how men and women so nicely they're enjoying. So nice child they're brought, see. They're walking around so much nicely. Car, they came out of the car. Child also jumped out of the car. Look at the woman, so nicely she is dressed. So we see all these things. So nice. Can I also look for that situation? And pang, we fall into the well. So it's called a covered well. The living entity sometimes falls into. So that's one expression, one understanding of Andakupam. And the second one is, Prabhupada explains, it's a well. Why does one go to a well? For water. But inside the well, sometimes the well becomes dry. And this was one such well. One fellow went into the water to pick up water, and then he found, after entering the well deep there's no water. There's no pleasure. We look for pleasure and go enter a householder life, but there is no pleasure there. We were looking in the wrong direction. That's the second reason. You fall into the well and looking for water, but it's a deep, dark, Andakupam means there is no water there. It was abandoned well, but you fell into it because you're such an intelligent man. And there's no water there. And there's no water there. There's no pleasure there. So that's second reason. Third reason, Prabhupada explains. What is the third reason? Okay. Invariably it happens in our temple. We have seen, I've come across many devotees. Devotee brahmachari becomes a grihastha, and then it goes on for some time. After maybe 3 months, maybe sometimes 6 months, maybe sometimes the illusion is a little longer, 1 year. And then the Prabhu comes, the devotee comes and says, Prabhu, my wife is like that, Prabhu, this way, Prabhu, this is not getting along, Prabhu, it's full of problems, Prabhu. Prabhu, I think now I'm feeling that I made a mistake. Can I undo it? Usually what I preach is, many times I have done, no, don't worry, it's you to tolerate, it'll all become all right, chant Hare Krishna, continue, go back to your house. Nobody will come and help him. That's the nature of a deep, dark well. You go there and you keep crying, shouting. People may look at you and they say, they'll be there. Nobody can help because you have got into a marriage. It's a serious thing. Don't think it's a light thing. Another person's life is involved. You made a promise in front of the fire, in front of all your father-in-law, mother-in-law, your father, mother, you made priests, so many of them. You have to stay there only. You have to tolerate it. You can't just think, now I'll come out. No, you cannot. It's deep, you've fallen there. You remain there. And the fourth reason Prabhupada gives is, and when you have fallen into the well, you cannot come out by your own effort. You need the help of a rope. And that rope, and you need somebody who has to come and give, if it's just a rope lying like that, and you start climbing that, it'll come back, right? It won't hold. You need a strong man who is holding on to their strong rope, and he says, just hold on to that rope, I'll pull you up. So you need a spiritual master who throws the rope below. And that rope is instructions. Guru's instructions. So you need a strong man, spiritual master. You need a strong man giving strong instructions, this rope. And then we have to hold on to the instructions of the spiritual master. Then the spiritual master will pull us out of the rope, out of the well. That's why these expressions are used in the Vedic literature. And very strongly he is reflecting on these things. Dig, dig iti garhayam chakara. How condemned I have become involved in sense gratification. This is how every spiritualist must self-examine, self-reflect. How is it that I'm still involved in sense gratification? How is it that I'm still running after sense gratification? Dig, dig, I am condemned verily. Garhayam chakara. So, Shukadeva Goswami describing Parikshit, Priyavrata Maharaj's situation with these beautiful words. We'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.